the cornerstone of what we believe in is that we're not just here trying to make better leaders. We're trying to make better people. And when you make better people, you then become a better leader, right? And so when you have high emotional intelligence, this leads to better leadership, better communication skills, not just at work, but at home.
Think about the implications. If I'm always upset and I make decisions from a position of anger, or if I'm apathetic because something happened as it's kind of deadened me a little bit and I'm feeling maybe not valued in that moment, right? How are those decisions going to carry the organization? How are those decisions going to affect the mission going forward, right? We can't allow ourselves to have those emotions cloud our reality, so that now we're negatively affecting everybody else's reality, and we're not leading from a place of clarity. We're just leading from this cloudy place that is riddled with emotions, and we're not giving it an authentic leadership response to what is being presented to us.
How are we doing tonight? Leadership State of Mind people. It is a beautiful February, and we are here today bringing you another episode of Leadership State of Mind. Oh, how we doing?
Man, it has been a absolutely marvelous month. We got to do this more often, bro. We got to do this more often.
Yeah, I agree. So tell me, how was January? We talked a lot about, for those of y'all that missed the podcast, we opened up January with a conversation about self-discipline and broke down a lot of the processes in which we needed to follow to be able to create those repeatable processes and build those goals. How you think you did? How you think your month went?
I'm telling you, man, there's one thing that I try to cherish is making sure that my words align with my actions. How am I going to tell y'all about self-discipline and not apply for myself? So one of the things that I did for myself was I said, I'm going to read a book a week in whatever format. Typically, how I typically read books is I have the audio book and I have the Kindle format audiobook going in the background, about 2.0, and I'm reading the book alongside. For me, the retention is significantly greater than just either listening to it in the background or just reading it by itself. Kind of a little leadership hack if you want to get into that. But so been holding strong, book a week, getting it going. Be Like Water, an amazing book by Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter. Drive by Daniel Pink, an absolutely phenomenal book. So been going every single week, holding that self-discipline. What about you?
Yeah, man. So really good month. I think as we all struggle with during the holidays is, we might not be working out as much, might have a couple extra meals, a little more candy and some treats. We deserve it. We work hard, but definitely wanted to get back onto the workout train. And so as we talked about in the last podcast, working out to me leads to more books, more knowledge, more input. And so right along with the podcast, I hit 2 books up this month. So I did Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday, which was so in line with a lot of the things that we were talking about and just that need for that self-discipline. And then I got into emotional intelligence. So I actually went back through the Daniel Goleman.
Yep.
Is it Daniel? Yeah, Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence book, which was, I think it's the gateway to a lot of the emotional intelligence discussions we're going to have over the next couple of weeks. And then Arbinger Institute again. I had to go back through self-deception. I think we'll get into that in some of the other podcasts. I think that's a huge part of self-awareness.
Yeah.
But so just, stay really good grind with the workouts and continue to go through the books. And so, good January. I feel good about it. A lot of good feedback on the podcast, and people, kind of reached out and said that they were trying some of these tactics. And so I think it went good, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty happy with January.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. So, but as happy as I am as January, I'm super excited about this topic. I think that both of us have had multiple conversations about the importance of emotional intelligence. And so we didn't think we could get this all in one podcast. Yeah. And so we sat down and we talked about it. And we're like, hey, we're going to intro this conversation. We're going to talk about some of the key elements of emotional intelligence, get people aware of it, because this is not a discussion that everyone's talking about.
Right.
This is not skills and tangible things that they might have, but they don't understand why those things work. And so I want to really open that up and get into that. And so, yeah, man, I'm just really excited about the whole emotional intelligence process and walking through that.
Absolutely, man. I mean, once you begin to look deeper into what facilitates top level performance, one of the things that really kind of comes out is somebody's demeanor, how they present themselves. And one of the things that's valued not only in the military, but in business is IQ. And it's always about how smart somebody is, how intellectually adept somebody is. And interestingly enough, numerous studies have shown that IQ is not an accurate determiner of how somebody is going to perform, which is why we're talking about emotional intelligence, because this is something that has come up within probably the last 20 years. And you come to realize that some of the things that we're going to be talking about, you're going to be able to recognize, it seems like it makes sense. It seems like it's just, this is common sense. How do we not value these things? But turns out we haven't, because we value the intelligence quotient, the IQ, or the ability to solve problems, use logic, grasp or communicate complex ideas, versus being able to recognize emotion in yourself and others and use that awareness to guide how you make decisions. And that's really the genesis of emotional intelligence. This is the crux of the matter. This is the thing, right? Because emotional intelligence allows you to connect outward with the people that you have the privilege of leading. Intelligence quotient is all about what's inward. It's all about you. How smart? I'm the smartest person in the room. Well, who cares if you don't care about the people that you have the privilege of leading? If you're operating one-of-one, it's just you. Absolutely, intelligence quotient, IQ, have at it. But this is a leadership podcast. Last time I checked, so we talk about actually having followers, having people that you're guiding to success, so you can facilitate an environment where they can grow and be the best version of themselves. So how are you interacting with the people that you have the privilege of leading? Because ultimately, emotional intelligence is about building relationships, facilitating healthy relationships with people that probably think 180 out from what you think, grew up in different places, believe different things, eat different foods, the whole nine. How are you going to bring all of those individuals together towards one goal? Well, turns out that's what we're going to be talking about today about emotional intelligence.
Yeah, man, I love it. And so, I wanted to make sure that I went to the emotional intelligence book, one of the books we read, and just kind of really just laid it out there, right? So emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, manage, and understand emotions. This includes the ability to recognize, interpret, and regulate your own emotions as well as those of others. And so when you get into emotional intelligence and you really start looking at this, you have to look at it from a perspective of you need to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. And you need to be able to also see how other people react and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And at the end of the day, it's not, like you said earlier, it's not about how much you know about something. It's what is your ability to motivate, lead, and inspire the people around you.
Absolutely.
And those skills, those tangible skills, come down to your ability to have that emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And
And so
go
ahead.
No, I'm just
No.
Just thinking about how to employ these things, how to bring these things, to life. I think you're going to go, more into depth on that one, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, the biggest thing that I want to talk about is that we always have to, in leadership state of mind, the cornerstone of what we believe in is that we're not just here trying to make better leaders. We're trying to make better people. And when you make better people, you then become a better leader,
Facts.
Right? And so when you have high emotional intelligence, this leads to better leadership, better communication skills, not just at work, but at home. How are you communicating with your spouse, your kids, your children? Self-knowledge, self-control, stress management. one of the, and we'll get into that more, but, your ability to understand how to get yourself back into the green band or back to zero, or whatever term you want to use, is one of the key contributors to emotional intelligence, right? If we don't know how to get ourselves centered, how can we be the best versions of ourselves? Like it's not possible. It's not. And so if you're one of those people, that's struggling some days where you're having an off day or having a bad day, and you don't understand the effects of your mood is having on other people, then keep coming back. Come check the next podcast, keep listening, because we're going to walk through this and you don't even understand it. You're having a bad day. You're frustrated at home. And now the way you carry yourself, the conversations you're having with people, that is all pushing out on them, and they feel it. And whether or not you think you know it or not, that is having an effect on the people that you lead. And so when you become aware of the different sections of emotional intelligence, you really start to be able to understand how you need to act and interact with the people that you serve to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, because you think about how many human interactions you're having day to day as a leader. I think last time I looked at it in terms of scientific studies, especially as a leader, you're having somewhere between 100 and 300 human interactions per day. So if we break down those human interactions, whether it be somebody coming and ask you about a project, someone to ask you about taking leave, whatever the case may be, you think about the most prevalent emotion that you're experiencing at that time. Somebody came in, gave you some bad news. And now, because of that bad news, now you are angry, you are frustrated. And what ends up happening is that those emotions, unchecked, begin to inform how we see the world going forward with each subsequent interaction. So if I start off at an angry base, I'm going to see the world through that anger until, like you said, getting back to green band, getting back centered, right? So instead of responding to a normal human interaction about maybe a problem, maybe something that you have to figure out, you may see it as an attack on you. You may see it as I need to be defensive in this posture solely because you allowed those most prevalent emotions at that time to carry your perspective away to a place where reality is not really there. You're seeing what you're seeing, but it's all clouded through that most prevalent emotion at that time. That's why emotional intelligence is so important, because if I respond through think about it, if I responded and I allowed every decision that I made to be an emotional one, whatever the most prevalent emotion was at that time, to be the most definitive decision that I made, you think about the implications. Think about the implications if I'm always upset and I make decisions from a position of anger. Or if I'm apathetic because something happened it's kind of deadened me a little bit and I'm feeling maybe not valued in that moment, right?
Yeah.
How are those decisions going to carry the organization? How are those decisions going to affect the mission going forward, right? We can't allow ourselves to have those emotions cloud our reality so that now we're negatively affecting everybody else's reality. And we're not leading from a place of clarity. We're just leading from this cloudy place that is riddled with emotions, and we're not giving it an authentic leadership response to what is being presented to us.
100%, man. And so, as we get into the emotional intelligence thing, like, make no mistake, this is not take all your emotions and bury them deep inside and be a robot, right? Like, you can't be this authentic, genuine leader and like have no emotions. But we want you to understand your emotions and understand the effects it has on the people around you. And so, anytime it comes to emotions and anytime people talk about taking things personal and being attacked, I always go back to my man, Don Miguel, one of my favorite books of all time. If you just need to get centered, right? So the 4 agreements, be impeccable with your words, don't take things personal, don't make assumptions, and do your best every day. And so when you think about that, if you break that down, he is speaking on many of the requirements and needs of emotional intelligence. And And that, you know, he doesn't say it in the book, but obviously as you become more familiar with emotional intelligence, not taking things personal when people bring you bad news or when things don't go the way you want to go, that allows you to lead from a clear perspective and allows you to not let those negative things affect the way you lead. And so as we go into this deep dive, understand that like emotions are important.
Yeah.
I'm an Italian from New York. It doesn't, I can't pretend to try to be anything else other than that. But how I like, you know, it's like, you from New York? Yeah, man. And so I don't want anyone to try to be someone that they're not. We've talked about it, you know, over the last couple of weeks. Being authentic and genuine is key, but we need to make sure that through that process, we are not allowing outside entities and distractions to affect the way that we lead and the way that we affect the people that we're around.
You know, and through this, I want to make sure everybody remembers, like, emotions. Don't be afraid of your emotions. We're going to talk about acknowledging emotions. We're going to talk about the different types of emotions. But here's the key thing to remember about emotions. If you don't remember anything else, emotions merely are information. Emotions are just information. Energy in motion. It is telling you something. That's why we have emotions. Emotions are telling us a story. They're informing us about something, right? Because I have a stimulus, something that happens, right? Emotion comes out of that stimulus, out of that thing that just occurred, and I have a time frame in between my response. I got stimulus and I got response. And I got a time frame in there, right? Within that time frame, I have a choice of being able to say, okay, this emotion is telling me this thing. Do I want to allow that story to carry me off to a place that is not reality? Right. So that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. We have a choice in between that time frame, and hopefully we're going to be able to give you some tools through this deep dive to help you use that time wisely that exists between stimulus and response, so that you can acknowledge the emotion that's coming as a result of that stimulus, so that you're able to say, this is happening, this is occurring, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I'm pissed off at the world, whatever the case may be, whatever that emotion, you know, that's coming out, be able to acknowledge it, understand what it's trying to tell me, but still be able to see through it and give a clear response.
Yeah, 100%. And so the other thing I would say to you is it's almost like you can expand. Like, it's like when you get to a point where you can, it's almost like slow motion, right? We've talked about this before. It's like an outer body experience.
Exactly.
And so where it's like you step outside of the situation and you like slow everything down and be like, man, you even have enough time to be like, 5 years ago, I don't think I would have responded this way. I think you would have got not the best version of me in this moment, but because I've understood these processes and continue to get in the books and understand the right way to lead and what people need, is that sometimes your emotions are what you want to do, not what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so how can you, like, if you want to lead and take care of people, your immediate gut reaction or that thing that's might have you really upset is really not going to help the situation get better. And so how do we slow that time in between those two and get you to a point where you can make the best decision for the team? Not what's best for you in that moment that will make you feel better, but what is going to help the problem, the people that you're serving, the people that you're leading, and lead to long-term success. And I think through this process, we can see ways to kind of slow that up and have those outer body experiences and be able to then better eloquently explain to the people that we serve the best way to handle it and do it from a good place. That makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, emotional intelligence is just like, it's like having a superpower, or at a minimum, it's like having one of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Right. You think about, Thanos, when he got the time stone in Infinity War, and he reversed time to get the Mind Stone, from Vision. Right. That's kind of what we're talking about, being able to extend that time and make use of it in a way where it's like, in the past, I would instantly respond to this situation and the chances are my first response was probably the wrong one. But now I have the benefit of extending this time out, looking at it from every perspective in real time. I can acknowledge myself, what's in the person that I'm interacting with, how they're experiencing my interaction, how I'm experiencing their interaction, and being able to respond with the most right answer in that time frame.
And that's in a perfect scenario.
That is.
And I will tell you like, if you think that I'm sitting here telling you that I have mastered that infinity stone and that skill set, I'm sure that I've messed that up on a daily, weekly basis. But like my sweatshirt says, we're a work in progress.
Facts.
Like we're trying to do on this podcast. We're trying to become better versions of ourselves. And so we're all going to make mistakes. We all could have handled situations better. But through this deep dive, I really think we can become better versions of ourselves on the other side. And so real quick, I was going to break down the five topics that we're going to get into. And then I know you had a story definitely to talk about kind of where your emotional intelligence journey came from. But so the big things that we're going to focus on, right? Once we get through this little intro, we're going to break this down into a couple parts. So the first one is going to be self-awareness. We're going to get into self-awareness and understanding how that works, talk about some books that we've read that have helped us out. The next one is self-regulation, which we've kind of already mentioned, right? Like, how do we get ourselves back to zero, get ourselves into a good place? What are the things that we need to reset every day to make sure that we're the best version of ourselves? Then we're going to talk about social skills, right? Because like Armand said earlier, we're going to have 100 to 200 interactions every day as leaders. We're going to have a bunch of people that need a bunch of different things from us. And so being able to read the room and have the social skills required to serve the people that we lead is really important. And then the next one, definitely my weakest link for a while, I feel like I continue to get better at it, is empathy. Yeah. I don't think you can undervalue empathy. Like, empathy to me, if you could take one thing out of this, I mean, I think all the topics are great, but like, if you want to be able to be a better leader and come out of this on the other side, you got to understand empathy. And you have to have, I'll save that story for that episode, but empathy is so important in the process. And then the last one is motivation, right? We're going to walk through motivation, intrinsic motivation, and how that works and what that looks like. And then I think we're going to end it on a high note, really talking about transformational leadership versus transactional leadership. Because as we get through motivation, it kind of is a really smooth transition into understanding how it is you're going to motivate, lead, and inspire your people, and understanding the difference between that transactional leadership versus that transformational leadership. So,
absolutely. And through these, and through these topics, through these deep dives, we're not going to sit from an ivory tower and tell you how we have this so figured out. We're going to talk down to you. This is what you need to do. Because let me tell you, if you had to put a title on my leadership journey, it should be entitled How I've Messed These Things Up.
Sure.
My very first experience being a leader was just, it was a masterclass in how not to employ emotional intelligence. I was a young second class, and there was some shuffling at the top of the chain of command that I wasn't necessarily a part of, because I was just a worker. I was just a person I got told what to do, and I wanted to go do that. But I got thrust into a leadership role extremely early, and I was not ready. So what do we do during those times when we are thrust into those leadership positions? We may have been doing some good work, but now I'm responsible for the care and feeding of those people under my tutelage. I'm like, okay, I'm going to mimic what I saw. I'm going to mimic what came before me. So what did I do when I took over as that young second class? I berated every person in my division to get them to do what I wanted them to do. One of the things about my personality with regards to, and this is why it's so important, IQ versus EQ, because I'm a person that valued intelligence. I was the person that was most concerned with being the smartest person in the room. Once again, that's about me. That was about me. So when I interacted with these other brilliant humans, I didn't value what they had to say because I was more concerned about me and how I was going to be perceived. So when I needed to get something done, you will do this. I would try to lord over them. I try to dominate them. I try to be just a complete misuse of authority, not even considering, not having a consideration of their time, not having consideration of who they are. There's zero honor in how I was leading them. I was trying to drag them. It was an absolute chaotic situation that kind of culminated with one of the people in my division telling me, "You are probably the worst leader I've ever seen in my life." It's like, that doesn't feel nice by any stretch of the imagination.
Of course not. No one ever wants to hear that.
Nobody ever wants to hear that. But through that reality, I knew I wasn't doing the job that I needed to get to, the job that I thought that I was doing. I was mimicking what I saw. I saw other leaders, quote unquote leaders, carry themselves this way with no emotional intelligence, just an absolute abuse of authority. And, it took that individual telling me, "Man, you're the worst leader I ever seen, man." And it kind of hit me because once again, that ego, I was still in work, but now it's like, I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And that coming face to face with the reality of, this is who you think you are. Nah, buddy, that's not anything close to reality. So that really started me on this journey of understanding, okay, what actually is leadership? What is this thing about? And I started to think about how I was treated early on in my career. I wasn't valued. Nobody asked me what I was doing through the weekend. Nobody asked me how my family was doing. Nobody was concerned about the human. Was only concerned about the work. And there was zero connection that I ever felt with any of the leaders early on in my career. So I started from a place of negativity, so to speak, because I didn't see what I wanted. So with that reality, when he told me, "Hey, you're the worst leader I've ever seen," I was like, well, maybe if I just try to be the leader that I wanted, maybe if I attempted to be the person that I wished led me, maybe I'd get some of this stuff right. And that was the thing that really started me on this journey to understand what it is a leader is supposed to be. And at the very, very, very top, at the bottom, at the foundational level of leadership, it was emotional intelligence. All the attributes contained within emotional intelligence were the things that needed to be done to truly connect and to truly lead.
Yeah. Wow, man. I mean, that's a great story, right? Like we said, we're not sitting here in an ivory tower talking about how great we are as leaders, right? The whole goal of this is to try to shorten the timeline between where you are and where you want to be as a leader, and help try to not make some of the same mistakes we did. And I'll tell you, your story really made me think about something that I think a lot of people need to think about, is like, a lot of times if what you see and what the leaders around you are and what they teach you is a lot of times going to turn out to how you're going to act as a leader.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you've never seen what right looks like, you've never had someone sit down and talk to you and show these emotional intelligence skills, have empathy, get to talk to you and know what makes you tick, then I think what happens is you're left with the other side, which is, we got to get the job done, and the job is all that matters. And so part of this emotional intelligence thing is being able to see those bad attributes as some of those others leaders have, and not to you push them out onto the people that you serve. Right. And so not all of us have the benefit of having good leaders.
Yeah.
You know, like what you're speaking of is exactly what we're going to talk about in the last segment, right? The difference between transformational leadership and transactional leadership, right? Like you need to get this done or this. And so if that's, and you know, from the military perspective, 20 years ago, I think that was the blueprint on how to lead.
That was it.
That was it. And so for us to go through that journey and realize like, wow, man, like this is not the way that I want to be led. And this is not what's going to motivate and inspire other people. Then you need to really, you know, continue to come back, check the podcast, listen to what we're talking about, because there's no different in the civilian world. You know, if you get a job as a salesman and you're really good at selling and they're like, man, we're going to promote you to manager. Well, you're going to automatically now be in that leadership role. Well, how are you going to teach people how to lead? How are you going to motivate them to do what you do? Because you certainly can't be like, well, just do what I did. It's easy. Right. No, because they're not you.
Exactly.
And so you have to have these emotional intelligence skills to be able to understand how they work, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, get to know them a little bit, and then be able to build on that. And so, I mean, really great point. I mean, my journey with emotional intelligence was a little bit different. You know, for those of you that don't know, and you know, in life in general, we are put in a box based on how we do on exams.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
SATs, ACTs, you know, to join the Navy, you need to pass the ASVAB test. And I'll be honest, man, I was never super excited about school. School was never like my first, oh man, I want to get straight A's, right? I liked sports. I liked hanging out. And I did okay in school, but it wasn't a priority for me. And so when I took the ASVAB test and the SATs and I ended up going into the Navy, I was giving them a job as a mechanic. And so I thought to myself, like, man, I'm not the smartest dude in the room ever, right? Like I'm just the dumb mechanic. And I really put myself in that box and really felt like, man, like I'm not going to, I can't compete with these other really smart people, these nuclear trained sailors and some of these people that have scored significantly higher. But what I started to realize is that being the smartest dude in the room was not always leading to success, right? It was the fact that, it was the fact that I was able to have these social skills to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of people and plug and play and put people in the right positions. And so what's amazing about getting into some of these books on emotional intelligence is it's really cool to just naturally be able to do some of these things, but it's even cooler when you understand why they work.
Yeah.
And so if you're like, man, I'm a people person, cool, that's great, that's really good, but now come with us on this journey to see why being a people person is leading to success, because you need to be able to create repeatable processes where you can lead the other people around you and understand the benefit of these skills. And so when I started to understand the why, I was like, why is no one teaching this? Like, why is this not at the forefront of everything that we talk about? Because it was so impactful to me. It was one of those moments where I'm like, this is where we're at. I've been, alive for this long and no one's mentioned this to me. Like, I'm like, what's going on here? So definitely an eye-opening experience, man.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it, when you think about leadership, the things that come to mind are the people that embody leadership. That the first thing that you think about when you read about these people, is leadership. When you think about the Abraham Lincolns, you think about the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, when you think about the Mahatma Gandhis, when you think about the Winston Churchills of the world, you think about these people and your leadership, absolutely. And then you go and do just not even a deep dive at all. You go and just look at some of the surface level decisions that they had to make, and you're just like, this is the human embodiment of emotional intelligence. Why are we not extracting what the strategies that these great leaders employ and get and make it so that it's something that all of us can absorb? Because I think there's this big still contention whether or not people believe that leadership can be taught or whether or not you're born with it. And
Yep.
I think I am fully on the side, and I used to be on the other side. I'm just a born leader. Nah, man, you can teach
Natural born.
Like, but once again, going inward, right? And the inward thing is going to be something that comes up often with regards to emotional intelligence, because the key with emotional intelligence is not going inward, not being so self-centric, but being people-centric. But why haven't these things been extracted and put out until Daniel Goleman came up and was like, these are the attributes that these top leaders are showing, and it all is contained within this wonderful, emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's such a good series. I think it's such a good way to really deep dive into some of the things that the mistakes that we've made, maybe some of the positive things that we've done, and really get people to understand how many benefits there are to understanding these key attributes of emotional intelligence. So, yeah, man, I really excited about this. I hope everyone is liking what you're hearing so far, and that you guys continue to keep coming back as we go into an individual deep dive of each different emotional intelligence category, with lots of stories, lots of good conversation and dialogue, and then hopefully some skills and keys that, will help maybe help you better understand each of these things and how to use them every day with your team.
Absolutely.
You got anything else, O?
No, just for those that are coming on this journey with us, Leadership State of Mind, please like, share, ask us questions. Please ask us questions, right? We want to be able to help you on this journey. If you are just been put into a leadership position, you've been in leadership for years, or you're just trying to sharpen the knife, sharpen the sword, so that you can be a more effective, more productive leader. You have some questions about how to do that, or if you just think what we talking about is out to left field, put it in the comments. We're here for all of it. We're here for all of it, and we want to talk about it because we want to make this an interactive, a collaborative thing where we are helping to make better versions while we are collectively making better versions of ourselves, helping others to make better versions of you as well.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's, I think the best part is that we're having these conversations, man, like, I'm learning more from you and helping me, giving me different tools for my toolbox. And so the more you guys like, share, comment, it just gives us more perspective and more things to talk about. And we continue to strive to get better. Definitely come check us out on Instagram too, Leadership State of Mind. Every Monday, we're dropping some motivational Mondays to get you guys ready for the week. And a lot of the focus this month will be a lot about emotional intelligence, man. So come check us out there, and look forward to catching you guys on the next episode.
No doubt. Peace.
Later, man.